Welcome, Megan. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you
If you
so
want to
much for having
introduce
me.
yourself and why you don't have to go into too much detail yet, but just like who you are and the community that you want to share about.
My name is Megan Kinney. Um, I have been a part of founding and leading a community called Bad Owl. Bad Owl Records, loosely, sometimes we have been in the journey of calling ourselves a record label. We are a record label, and part of our journey has been redefining what exactly that means and how we can be supportive to the artists in our community, including myself as an artist first and foremost.
Incredible. Yeah, I invited you on this podcast because I know you as someone who has really built community over many years and done it in really experimental, creative ways that has helped fund artists while also like being in integrity around the art that you make. Um, but would you explain a little bit more about who Bowed Owl is and what you'll do?
Yeah, well, so basically I come from a long a long life of making art. um, and I think I moved to Los Angeles without a real community of people. I moved here with my sister, who was a dancer, and at the time we were auditioning and really deeply trying to find community. Like I look back at that time in my life and I'm like, oh, there was so many emotions and feelings. And I think a large part of that was just trying to land on people that I could connect with and share in this like beautiful experience that it is to be an artist trying to find your way. And through a series of shows and opportunities and different things, I found myself to a really amazing group of people who I felt like were making music, but also really enjoying the process of doing so. And that was something that I often feel I felt a disconnect a lot. It's like we have to make this product and we have to do this thing, but the process of it is lost often when you're trying to find this result or this product that can be sold. And so that was really the basis of it. It was like, oh wait, this is a group of people who just really want to make art with their friends and enjoy the heck out of it while they're doing it. Um, and then it kind of stemmed from there of like we want to figure out how to sustain this community so we can keep doing that because there's so much juice in the process of what this is. And so one of our first opportunities was a placement in a commercial, a Samsung commercial with this band was called Karmic, the group of people that I met, um, and out of that opportunity, we our brain started to wrap around the idea of becoming a business that could then capture more of that resource of the sync licensing side of things. So um, the idea of creating Bad Owl, which was like a wider net than just one singular band, was that like, oh, we can start becoming the person that can actually go and talk to the brands instead of just being an artist that then has to go through a bunch of other licensing companies to get to the resource that we needed. So thus began like, oh, we'll just become a business.
The solution.
The solution, a business. At that time, there were seven of us, and we all walked into a bank together to open our bank account.
Amazing.
Time, one of our partners also had a baby, so we're like rolling into the bank, like baby carriage, like full on. Um, and yeah, just started the process of all of the things that it takes to actually organize yourself and create infrastructure and since then have been on this a really interesting journey of like, well, what does a an artist community actually provide when starting out we weren't the traditional record label model where you're a bank and you have a lot of funds and resources. We were trying to generate the resources ourselves as well through sync licensing, which actually was a viable form of making money especially at that time. And then it was just kind of like, oh, it's guardrails. It's like we're all artists as well, so we're in the process of being like, well, what does a deal look like that's actually helpful? What does it actually mean to have a community that's supportive when you're putting out a song? But then what actually feels bad when there's an entity that's trying to take away from the people who are actually creating the thing that's being capitalized on, basically.
Mm.
And yeah, so I mean, where we've landed is we have a library of music that we represent, a lot of stuff that we've made through our community and just other artists. We represent this music for sync and licensing, so we provide that as an opportunity. We also distribute music on platforms, Spotify and Apple Music and all the places, YouTube. Um, and we do a lot of live events and live shows and kind of create an opportunity for collaboration to occur in various ways in a live format, and also like bringing the community of the licensing world back into the live experience. So kind of providing an opportunity for artists to get in front of people who could potentially license their music or use it in some capacity that could generate resource.
So cool. So cool. I have so many questions already that I want to dive into, but I want to come back to after the rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
But just the way that you have started as a community of friends and artists who had a shared like vision and bringing that into a business, and then maintaining the IRL community part at the same time is just, I think that people who are also building communities, whether it's like at the very beginning or like a year in, when often it can start to get real and a little harder, or like have been doing this for many years, have a lot of things that they could like learn from you because you've been doing this so long and like experimented with lots of different formats. So I'm excited to ask you more detailed questions about what that experiment has been like and all of those transitions along the way. But first, coming back to basics, I want to ask you a few questions and answering them within like a minute, and we can kind of come back to the meat of them later. Of just like, this is the first thing that kind of comes off my mind when you ask me this question. So, you ready?
Yeah, ready.
All right, let's go. So, question one is, what are the values of your community of Bad Owl?
Bad Owl, we value creativity, collaboration, reciprocity, community, and expression. I think people being authentically able to express who they are and where they are at any given moment. Initially through music, and now in a phase more of being able to do that through things like this, being able to sit and actually talk about what we're doing. And so yeah, and having a good time. Actually, that is the thing that we value. It is high up there on the bar. Like if we're enjoying the process of what we're creating together, because that is ultimately what I think any business is, a petri dish to be able to grow and explore ourselves and our community and like see sides of the people that you love that you wouldn't normally see in a regular, whatever regular means, friend dynamic. But business just brings an opportunity to deepen that experience of.
That's real. I feel like my experience of starting a business and starting community have been some of the most like illuminating experiences of just like insight and understanding of yourself and other people, where you're like, oh wow. So I can understand a little bit of what you're talking to.
Yeah. Can't hide in
No.
that experience of things, which is a beautiful thing.
It is. Ain't easy, but it's beautiful. Okay, question 2 is, what is the structure of specifically your IRL events, and like how do you bring that into the other parts of your community?
So it's actually, that's a beautiful question, because I love an aspect of how our live show and our community have reflected each other, and then getting feedback on being able to experience that was like one of the most powerful up level moments of our business. We we do like a biannual event, like a big Bad Owl Live, we call it. And it's like kind of like a showcase, a blend of a showcase and just a really good time where we'll bring in, last one we had 9 different artists. But then we have a bit of a battle house band. So our like core creators that have played with a lot of the different projects are like, the house band that's playing, and then new artists that come in have the opportunity to play with them in that setting. And it creates this like super joyous and collective experience of like what it means to be supported by community. So like I know what it's like from years of being a solo musician, of like, oh, I have to play a show and then I have to pay a band and I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to sell a number of tickets and then I'm gonna have to pay for this band to play. And I'm ultimately gonna be in the hole at the end of doing this
Mm.
situation, which is like a lot of um the come up as an individual artist. And so it kind of really happened organically that in our live shows we just have this community that can come and support, and people can drop in and play, and the band will learn all the songs. Um and so that's been kind of like our big event twice a year. And we've done it mainly in this place in Venice, which is like a really eclectic, cool space with a lot of different, there's outdoor areas, indoor areas, and we try to create a pretty equal balance of industry people and just community members and supporters who love music. So really trying to break that mold of the Los Angeles dynamic of you go to an event and no one wants to dance because they're like, we're here for working. And uh, it's like not the vibe at all. And so that's kind of our main twice a year, and it's a big undertaking, but it's super fun, and I always get to perform too, which is really fun, and get to put on a bunch of different hats in that environment. Um and then we do a lot of small living room shows, a lot at our home here, and um like on the hillside or in the living room. Every Christmas we do an event, and it's just like similar vibe where there's a house band and there's people coming and sitting in. Um, and then we've done a series of intimate dinner parties, a lot with music supervisors that we work with.
Mm.
Um, just being able to be in the environment and sharing new music that we're representing, and just like giving people access points to have an emotional connection with the music that ultimately could be used in all sorts of formats. And I think that um, you give someone the experience, like the live experience, like to feel the beating heart of a person playing in front of you, and it like totally changes the dynamic of how um, people listen to what they're, your music supervisor, you're probably listening to thousands of songs a day. But if you have the experience of like, oh, I remember I was sitting right in the corner when they lit some candles and then played this song and spoke about their grandmother or whatever, it sticks in a different way. It's kind of been a really fun. It's my favorite aspect of things. I love being together and playing music together.
It's so beautiful. And you were saying like feeling the beating heart of a musician in the song. I want to come back to that as well and like dig into that more of how IRL events can really create so much more connection
Yeah.
than, the simplicity and the ease and convenience of online in the short term can be so beneficial,
Yeah.
and easy to scale and quick to implement. But like the investment and the richness of IRL events and gathering people may be harder at the start, but just like so much more impactful in the long term. So it was beautiful to hear you talk about that.
I know, honestly, we're in a funny place as a community because we have been practicing that for a long time, and now we're trying to get our online, like we've had a hard time getting our online presence going. Luckily though, now we're in this position where we are finally like getting our website developed and all this stuff, and our great partners being ourselves that have been helping us build the infrastructure and like an archive, because we have so much video footage over the years of all these events. So now we actually have a space that we can like host it, and that's been exciting. But we're kind of doing a reverse of a lot of people catching up on the
Interesting.
online side of things.
Okay. Okay, I'll ask you about that. Of just like that opposite.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm making a note of that to come back. Okay, next question is how do you market your community events, your IRL events?
That's tied to what we just said. We word of mouth has really been our main. um we've never really struggled with getting people to come to things, I think, because we've spent a large part of the development of our community just like really spending time together. And so like when we put out an event, I've sometimes been kind of shocked at like, oh, people uh, show up for this because we have, some of my teammate Danny, who is like such an amazing woman in the way that she cares for her relationships. And, so she's not just cold emailing people. She's like, she knows people's dogs' names. She's checking in. She's, because she's not, obviously, we're motivated by running a business and such, but it really is at the core just motivated by like being connected to people and feeling where people are at. We've had people that have met at battle events and started dating and like, we'll talk just about that. Like, so I think again, we're in a beautiful season of starting to bring those worlds together, like not depending entirely on this sort of chaotic bit of world of mouth that can be kind of stressful when it's like, I don't really know how it's gonna have to come together, and then it does. Um, but yeah, that's been the most part what it's been. People
Hmm.
talking about it, community. A lot of our a lot of the artists um, in our collective just sort of also engaging their communities, because that's my favorite. I think I had a dream early on where I had this visual of like being an ecosystem and then realizing that there's other communities of music makers that are like their own little ecosystem. And then it's like just figuring out how those can work with each other. So like one of our bad Owlians, Kyle, started dating a guy that's in a music collective called The Park. And they're a really dope group of friends that similarly have been making music together for a long time. They're doing really cool things in the Web3 space, all this stuff. But for our live events, it's like The Park also, they make coffee. So they're like, oh, can we come do a coffee booth at your live event? And so they're there, they got their coffee booth,
Mhm.
they're generating resource off of it. They're
Great.
also playing in the show, like they're supporting, and then we're kind of and so then word gets out to their community, and that's kind of been a really cool um, way to organically market things as well.
Hmm. You have such a unique structure that I feel like I'm like the challenges that a lot of community builders have, I think, as you're saying, like you're going from many years of really dedicated collaboration and deep relationships. And you're saying like how important relationships are, and that like marketing is not a challenge for you in terms of attendance. Like there is this network of people, which I think a lot of people don't necessarily know how to build community or how to gather people well. Like that's an art that many of us have lost, and particularly post pandemic of just the fragmentation of how to come together. And for example, this project in Laurentum, and we're like, why we're doing this is so much about rebuilding what the digital has overridden for so many people, where it's like, oh, defaulting to this supposed ease of digital, but y'all are like really much being in the more, for want of a better term, like the old school approach of like true, deep rooted community building, and also worked out how to sustain that community and creativity through very like creative financial models. So I want to just like go into that again and like open up those conversations um about like your approach to everything feels very different to most people. And one of those things is like the financial model. It's like how did you, if you want to explain a little bit about placement, because I didn't even know what placement meant before I lived in LA,
Yeah.
and then licensing and what that looks like, and like how you'll do the financial kind of operations, and how your team, how you as a team manage like the finances of distributing it across a collective of people. Like, I'm very intrigued to know all the details of that, because I think that that could be just like such an amazing model for other people and other communities.
Oh my goodness. It is, yes. I first have to say yeah, it hasn't been easy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also been the most powerful work for me. Like I think it's such an empowering thing to step into finances and look at that from a different way, like to actually, because the reality of music is too that it's every song is its own entity. So every song is its own opportunity for the conversation around equity. And I used to just dread this, you have to, and every time you collaborate together, you have to come together and talk about what everyone's value is. We've gone through phases of just being like, if you're a part of it, it's split evenly, like everything, and now I've just moved into this space of taking it on as an opportunity to um, really allow for the emotional experience that occurred in the creation of anything to inform the conversation and the vulnerability that it can provide when we speak to how we divvy up funds. Um,
What's an example of that?
so, for example, we were working on a project. We were making a bossa nova record recently for a company called Pure Music, really wonderful independent music publisher, and we're in the phase now where we just completed the project, and so we're going to have a meeting this week to discuss different metrics of people's participation, so that everyone can speak to, well, on this project, these things were heavily weighted: the collaboration, in this particular project, the specificity of it, like it was very important because we're making it to a specific, for a client, for a specific thing. So there was a lot of like execution in the mixing and the hours put into it. And then everybody just kind of coming to the meeting and saying, okay, well, I did all of these things. I participated in this way. And then we're going to work through the numbers and say, does this feel good if we split this up this way, or does it feel good in this way? And we had an initial idea of what that looked like going into it. And now that we're at the end of the project, we're going to reassess if that played out the way that people anticipated that happening.
Wow. So you have like a model, a financial model going
Yeah.
into each project of, this is how, based on each skill set and time, is it kind of like some combination of time, skill? I'm so
Yeah,
intrigued.
well, actually, Felis, brilliant Felis, my partner Felis, who's been like such an amazing addition into this community because his brain thinks on this level, and Battle started in 2018, so we've been playing with these things a lot, and him coming into the community has kind of given us a lot of tools to be able to map it out. So he's actually built out a calculator that can you can weight different aspects of the participation from the get-go. And this is something we're still integrating. We're still kind of twisting the knobs on how it all works. And so right now, we're not quite using the model of that yet, but we are using it in the way that we communicate and speak to these projects. It's been super informative. And I mean, and I say this whole complicated thing before saying our basic model of generating resource is procuring a sync license for an artist and then on that side of things, we do a 60-40 split. So the artist keeps 60% and then Bad Owl takes a 40% cut off of that. So that's a pretty straightforward split. If we're just repping an artist that isn't necessarily a part of our community, we also have instances where we're the ones creating the song. So we're also dividing that 60% amongst the people that created it, and then having to have a conversation about the 40% and how that 40% is going to the needs of the business. But there's no getting around the conversations and contemplation of how it all goes to serve the wider community. For a long time, I was really avoidant of and just kind of annoyed that it always has to be that way, and looking for one model that would be this works this way. And what I've really learned is it just doesn't exist. And it when wanting to create an environment where people feel valued and seen for what the uniqueness of each opportunity or each project provides. Like, the creative process is such a wild thing, and you never really know how it's going to transpire. You can have an idea of how it might go, but then always having like the initial, this is how we think it's going to go, this is what we think the payouts are going to be like, and then at the end of the project being like, this is actually what happened, and this is the ways that we're making it make sense for the people participating. So it feels good and excited to keep showing up when if you were to apply this to the corporate world or in any capacity, like, you're not making the amount of money that you would make for what you're putting into things. Oftentimes it's, still having to to work with smaller budgets and things like that. But so, and in those environments, the way that people are showing up and being valued it almost becomes more important in the longevity of keeping the community safe and healthy. Yeah.
Safe and healthy.
I don't know if that was,
Is
that was
that
a lot
in a
more.
way, it's such a big question about like financial model that, I think that money connects to everything. It's not
Yeah.
something you can really talk about on its own.
Yeah.
And yet it can be such a unspoken about topic for people that everyone is experimenting with different financial models, but don't really understand how other people are doing it. And I think we just need to talk about it more.
Yeah.
All of us need to be more open about it. So it's really cool to hear you talk about like that weighted understanding of like the splits, but then also the different types of contribution. It's really cool. I would just mapping that in my
Yeah.
mind, and would love to have like a conversation even about that in another capacity,
Yeah.
for community builders. Like maybe we could do a Q&A where, if you're open to it, like people could come and ask you about like specific questions. So we can talk about that later, but I'm getting excited about the possibilities of
Yeah.
people learning from you and your experiments.
Well, and as complicated as the music industry is, it does provide these little micro opportunities to do that in a really cool way, and also like share inequity in things. Like, as much as it's a heavy industry and there's a lot of shady people that work in it, like, all of the major labels have to maintain some semblance of camaraderie with one another, because more likely than not, they have artists that are sharing in the equity of their largest profiting pieces of song. So it actually provides this interesting, like, the model of it is that, like, some songs have 20 people working on them, and you have to figure out how to contend with that. So it's a cool mirror. I'm learning to like love it more. I used to, but it's getting there, and would love to. Yeah, I think Felix would be amazing for him to show this tool that he's been working on as well.
Cool. That'd be amazing. Yeah, I feel like people would really benefit from that.
Yeah.
You keep mentioning relationship and like coming back to that again and again. And I'm curious about how there's so many parts of this that I'm like, woo! But my sense, and perhaps it's different, so feel free to take this question in whatever direction you like. But my sense is that your the strength of relationships in your collective is your most valuable asset, if you would like to call it that. It feels minimizing to call it an asset, but like most resourcing resource. And I'm curious how what relationship has made more possible for you in the creative process and the financial process, and like the ways that you'll have experimented with new ways of creativity and finances based on like strong relationship.
I mean, it's like with any relationship in life, you go through something. And I mean, personally, I think even just in this past year, I've grown so much in being able to be really honest with the people in my community about where we're at financially, about what's going on. Because there was definitely a period of time where I felt like it was necessary for me to like protect. Because the other thing with a lot of artists is you come across this idea of like, I don't really want to know about that. I don't want to know about the business side of things because I'm an artist and that doesn't pertain to me. And I've contended with that within myself while running a business of it. This is hilarious. I'm, um, and so I think bringing the business side of things to a relationship for people to contend with and sit with has actually been super expansive for the relationships. And it's like, it's amazing to be able to sit and make music with someone. It's a really amazing, vulnerable thing. And then also to be like, we're making music together, but we're going to have a conversation about the money we're making off of this music and how it makes it feel. And in a weird way that makes the making the music together even more beautiful and sweet and rich. Because it's multifaceted. It's just opportunity to know people from a different angle. I'm not sure if I answered your question or what. We were
However you feel inspired to talk about relationships within the context of Bad Ally, welcome.
Yeah. I mean, the realty, I started this business with a former partner of mine, who was an amazing creator. And in that dynamic, I think we learned that being in romantic partnership and creative and business dynamic was too much. It wasn't sustainable in the relationship. And that was also a really valuable lesson. We had another partner who, it wasn't the business aspect of things wasn't working out for her. And in order to remain some form of relationship, we had to part ways in that regard. I mean, we started out with 7 people as actual co-founders and owners of the business. And now in 2025, there's 3 owners. Because there's also like, concentric circles of how you relate to one another in a community. And it's like being a founder and an owner is you're doing your tax returns together, you're figuring that stuff out. Like you were in business together, and it is a deep relationship. And you're very aware of each other's finances and personal finances and things like that. And there's a level of responsibility to that. I can remember when we first started out with 7 people, some people being like, this might be a lot. And I was like, well, it's going to be great. And then the reality sets in of like, how people want to participate and how people want to show up. And so 2 of the founding members also a year or 2 in were like, I want to focus on making the music and being in the band. I don't want to have the responsibility of the administrative side of this, and like being an owner for this is a lot, and I don't want to be a part of that, but I still want to be a part of this community. And so that was an initial exiting as owners, for two of them, uh, Kyle and Laura, who are incredible women, incredible creators. I still love making music with them, um, and that was a really profound lesson too. It's just like finding right relationship and dynamic in it,
Mm.
and I'm really proud of the fact that in that particular instance, we're still able to create and move this community forward, and they're still supportive, um, and yeah, I think in every instance, it's just like being honest about what the relationship can handle, what it's how much you're willing to show up for each aspect of that as well. Yeah, and even and that also serves in the way that we work with people in the industry, because it's like knowing that it takes a long time too. It's everything. It takes a long time to develop relationships where people feel comfortable. Like, we have relationships with music supervisors that, we've known for 7 years or something, and they just now starting to license a track, and you realize like, oh, all of those years of taking the time to get to know and understand someone creatively, like they're finally ready to want to work with us in a different capacity. And I, yeah, have wished for all sorts of shortcuts along the way, but I don't actually think there are.
Hmm. There are no shortcuts to relationship.
Yeah. I I
Hmm.
mean I mean I think you can definitely like dive in deep and go hard with people quickly, but what time provides and consistency of showing up for something. Um I mean, even I've felt the need to prove myself in my business with my own community that we are worth the continuation of people putting something back into it. Because there's been a lot of periods of time where people are like, oh, this would just be a lot easier if I just did this by myself. I wouldn't have to worry about taking care of this whole group of artists. And I have my own artist project and I just want to go for it and do my thing, and like not have to deal with what comes with continually having to show up and communicate with people outside of yourself. Um, and I've contended with that within myself. So then I'm aware of how it's impacting other people, and like have been through periods where I'm like, I need to show that this is worth it and this is valuable, and nothing has helped me with that except for the consistency of showing up, and then finally reaching a place of like, oh no, I've just now been doing this for a long time. And we're doing it. Like, we're not, this isn't a rehearsal anymore. Like, we are just doing it, and we all want to continue to do it. So that's really cool.
Mm. Mm. You were mentioning earlier about just like creating trust and safety for artists, and it sounds like that relationship building and that consistently showing up and developing relationship over time has built this really deep foundation of trust and safety, which is admirable to do and to like maintain a sense of collective thinking, even in those impulses of being like, oh, if I just do it myself, it'll be faster and easier. So, in awe of you in that process. Hmm. When you were talking, I was really thinking of that, like the proverb that I can't even remember who to attribute it to, but it's like if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, or however it's phrased. And really just thinking about that people start communities being like, yeah, just get them in the door and then we do the thing. And that the more community builders I speak with, I am hearing similar in slightly different words of just like consistency, showing up, building trust, and that really having to be open to the honest feedback, as you were talking about, of like people being like, but I don't want to be in this. It's okay. How do you delegate different roles? How do you reconfigure what community looks like again and again and be iterative about it. And it's beautiful to hear you having experimented with it the last 8 years. Is it
That's
8 years?
yeah,
7 years?
7 years. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I to send some love and appreciation to Peter, one of our co-founders, and his wife Laura, because they really held the container initially of consistently having pizza nights. That was the first thing that really started the battle hangs. And it was like they make pizza, they make homemade pizza, like the best homemade pizza you've ever had. The bake the dough, have it rise, like,
Hmm.
and yeah, I think just providing that was my initial experience of like the consistency of a group of people that were holding a space where I felt so comfortable and loved um and then yeah, that their willingness to just continue to do that and like host people in that way was kind of like the seeds of the battle hang.
Hmm.
Nothing but and I mean Peter, like a larger part of our network, Peter has long-standing relationships with people for 20, 25 years that he's just continued attended to. I've learned so much from Peter. It's
Hmm.
epic, epic human, epic creator and host. Keep showing up to do the thing. Yeah, this is
And it sounds like having, maybe you wouldn't refer to Peter as this, but like mentors or elders or leaders who have done this for longer than you,
yeah,
who can be in it together. And like,
yeah,
that's really beautiful and something I think a lot of people don't have.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there and yeah, mentorship. Really, Peter, I came to him initially as an artist to work with a producer because he's a brilliant producer. And that role of um, supporting someone's artistic expression being shared with the world is a form of mentorship in a really cool way. And then uh, we've also, there's ways and elements of my vision for how this all works that I know has been supportive for Peter, and we've like just helped each other grow up in such a cool way.
Mm.
And Laura, his wife, who's also my biggest collaborator, she's taught me endless things about using my voice and slowing down, finding my grounding, my presence, and I think she's constantly bringing me back to we just have to keep going and we don't like because I sometimes will get panicked like we need to move faster or we need to be at a place that's different than where we are. And yeah, the quote you said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It is. Yeah, Peter actually quotes that all the time.
Really?
Funny you bring it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm intrigued because I think that a lot of the people that I've been speaking with on this podcast are more in early stages of building IRL community. And you, as we've spoken about it, have such a unique approach because it seems like you're more of a collective than a community in many ways.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's slightly different dynamics and intentions around like how do you actually build a collective in a world that isn't built or doesn't support collectives. It
Yeah.
supports like individualism or the like do and expect immediate results. And as you've been speaking about it, there's like attending that happens, there's relationships, there's imagining new models of finances and structures and team, and that you'll have really been creative in all parts of Bad Owl, not just the music. And that's really cool. And I'm curious what when you're talking about the seven of you going into the bank together to start like to officially have the like Bad Owl Collective. What is something that you wish in that like first year of building a collective that maybe you didn't necessarily even refer to it as a collective at that stage, but like a community that came together with a similar intention and gathered and were creating together and building money and possibilities together. What do you wish that you had known about building community, building a collective, building a new project that you know now and that may be really helpful for other people to hear who are potentially at that stage now?
I think I wish I had someone tell me that it's okay to be honest about what your needs are in order to do the things that are necessary to keep the community going. And to have someone really speak to um I think again where I was talking about feeling this need to prove myself or to prove the value of the entity, like the community and the entity is a living, breathing thing. And I think the more that people and a leader of any community is a reflection of that and can mirror the value of the entity itself. Um, and I think a lot of my insecurity and like artist wounding around being taken advantage by entities outside of the creator itself. I think just to have ease and recognition that it's important and it's needed. It's actually very, very needed. And as the world gets more individualized and people are spending more time alone and contemplating these things, like the value of a safe community and space where people can share things that they're making and have it be seen and heard is super valuable. And um, yeah, again, no shortcuts, but maybe having known that early on could have saved me a bit of like the struggle and fight of being like, no, this thing is it's worth it and you all should trust it. Like the alignment within myself probably would have been the most supportive way that the energy of the whole thing could be felt. And I mean, I'm not also trying to knock anybody who wants to start an LLC with seven people, but also taking into consideration what it means to go into an equity relationship with a lot of people, and the legal fees that it costs to make changes to equity dynamics. Because initially we started out and we were like, we're all equal owners of this thing. It isn't really worth any money at this point, but that became such like a focal point then when different people started having varying levels of participation. It was all fine and good when we started and we were like, yes, we're all in this initially. And then as it started to move and the workload started to change and the reality of being an administrator and an artist and all of these things started to like organically become, oh, I'm taking this on or I'm taking this on. And again, we didn't really have a lot of structure at that point to how these things were moving. And then resentment started to build in various pockets of like, well, I'm actually doing way more of this, so I should have more of an equity ownership. And then, yeah, it again wouldn't change a thing because I learned so much in that process. But I think um, having a little more thought on the initial creation of the entity itself and exploring there's a lot of really unique models and systems that are out there now, and I think like approaching the creation and initial structure of the entity is can be really powerful.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Where do people look up their unique systems and models if they wanted to do a similar thing?
I mean, that's a good question because I didn't really have my reference point was my father, who's an entrepreneur. I talked to him about it, and he was just like, "Don't start a business with 7 people." He just said, "Don't do that." But I didn't understand why. I didn't have the experience of like, oh, this is the struggles that you come into. I think ChatGPT is an awesome resource at this point for discussing um, structures and I actually was a part of a community called Song Camp that was a Web3 community that kind of brought a lot of materials about different structures like co-ops or um, kind of just, I think I don't have the answer yet of what is the go-to model. So yeah, it'd actually be really cool if there was a company that was trying to put resources together for IRL community leaders.
I know, that's why I asked. I was like, oh, where does one find resources and how to start a
Yeah.
collective?
I mean, honestly, it's not really out there. Yeah, I mean, and that's what like trips me up early on too, particularly in the licensing world. We're like, okay, we have this music, we want to place it in films. We had a co-founder, Laura Payne was a lawyer at the time, so she was really helpful in um, an amazing resource of helping us legally understand what was going on. But we're Googling shit. We're like, how does a license agreement work? Like, what's going on here? Trying to just actually during the pandemic, it was a really powerful time for us because people who normally wouldn't have taken our calls, there was just a lot of people that were higher level executives in the music industry that didn't have anything to do. So they were just like down to talk to us, which was really cool. And we got a lot of people that we wouldn't have normally. And yeah, I mean, the funny thing is whenever you approach something with kind of a naive mindset, we were like, well, I know they're signed in an exclusive deal, but how does us providing an opportunity for a song, we can just have a conversation with the other rights holder of the music. And we came up against so many people who were like, that's not how it works. It's not how it goes. And it's like, well, why? And then we're like, well, I don't know. It's just because that's how it
It's
works.
just how it is.
Yeah. And then it was like, well, we're going to make you it's free money for you. Like, there's really no, other than your need to own this artist exclusively. If you take that out of the equation, we're just making you money and you literally didn't have to do anything. All you have to do is give us the green light to have this opportunity for this artist. And it was such a trip early on having people like get really angry and like be like, that's just not the way that things were done. And now I feel like we're in a totally different echelon where people are understanding. It's like, oh, we can work together. Oh, we just have to talk on the phone and then like be on the same page about this, and then we can provide an opportunity. Cool, 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 cool.
Oh, we just communicate? Cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Danny works with me. She's the best about it. She always is just like, yeah, we just talk about it. I think we figure it out.
Love that.
So funny.
I have so many more questions for you, and also have one more question for you.
Okay,
and
great.
Excited by the possibility of like having more opportunities to learn from you and all of the experiments you've been in the last 7 years. The last question is, when things are challenging and you're like, why am I doing this? This is hard or awkward or unknown. What keeps you going, and what has Bad Owl offered you that you're like, this is why I do this?
So interesting. Someone asked me this recently.
Really?
And we were out somewhere and I didn't have the initials, so I've been thinking about this.
Oh.
And I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. Having conversations like this, where I get to reflect and think about all of the beauty that this journey has provided. Making music and getting to experience the people that I love and getting to experience the things that they've created. It's like one of the most beautiful gifts. It's like you get to be with someone, you get to, we're here, we're holding a conversation. And then to hear something that someone's made and be able to experience that of them outside of actually having to be with them is like such a spiritual experience for me. And I think it's like relating to anyone's creative self or your higher self. It just like allows this opportunity to be connected to people without all of the human bullshit that gets in the way of truly feeling intimately connected with another critter on this planet. And I think when I get down on how hard things can be at times, I remember that like that's what I can provide for my friends, is the opportunity for them to share that part of themselves that is like the highest expression of something outside of that, and share that with the world, and I get to experience it myself too. Mm. It's the best. It's the best thing
ever. Music, music, music.
Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and to play music together, it's just such a gift. Such a gift. Yeah, keeps me coming to the table every day. So
must be pretty good then.
Yeah.
That seems like a beautiful place to finish, is that music keeps you coming to the table every day. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and insights and experiments in building a collective and building an equity-based collective. And I'm excited for more conversations and opportunities for people to learn from you. So let's work out what that looks like.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much for having this. Is such an incredible, I mean, you were speaking to the other night and I was like, wow, it actually warms my heart to the millionth degree that people are contemplating this and taking steps to provide support, because you're so right. It can be, you get to certain cross sections and it's like, am I completely alone in this? Am I the only one that's thinking that this is actually valuable and important? And so to even hear that there's people taking that into consideration is like, oh my gosh, there's hope for humanity, because this is, yeah, it's such powerful work. Super grateful.
Agreed.
And the opportunity to speak about this too. It's like,
I know,
for me.
So nice. Like,